This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily for a Tuesday afternoon. We got a big afternoon coming up for you. Fun show. Getting ready for the... Sorry, I just had a butter tart before coming in. Wasn't prepared. Big show coming up before Game 6 tonight, the Stanley Cup Final. Will we see a Game 7? We'll head down to FLA. Dennis Bernstein from the fourth period is going to be joining us. A lot of talk about Jonathan Toews, a big week for Toews. We're actually going to get into that in the opening segment with some audio from our pal insider Chris Johnson and Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects, who has been very much on this story and, you know, has been saying throughout that Winnipeg is the favorite. Been talking to league sources. We'll get Cam on to find out a little bit more on that. And of course, the draft is coming up. I mean, as soon as this series is over, it's time to see who goes number one. Get a little thoughts on the upcoming draft from Cam as well. We've got a big night coming up on Thursday. Completely sold out patio party for the Winnipeg Goldeyes and Winnipeg Sports Talk. Thanks so much to everyone that got their tickets. We're looking forward to seeing you on Thursday night. Andrew Collier, the GM of the Fish, going to jump on the program to set up this homestand and talk a little bit about the historic run that Max Murphy's been on, becoming the home run king in Goldeyes history on the weekend. And Jake Bolin Moss is going to jump on as well. I want to talk to Jake about this game tonight. Blue Jays starting another series, and what we've got cooking over at Coolbet from the weekend. And then, of course, CFL 110 is live, 3 o'clock or thereabouts, as soon as we are finished WST today. So hang around, myself and Jeff Hamilton, with all the big stories in the Canadian Football League coming out of Week 2 and getting ready for Week 3. Bombers on the practice field today. No Brady Oliveira. Which is not a surprise. Do not expect Brady to be playing. But, of course, Zach Collaros will be playing. And as we'll talk about it later on, based on what we're seeing, the lines for these games, I don't expect that Nathan Rourke plays. And it is sort of interesting. We're going to probably see a very different quarterback matchup. It was Streveler and Rourke in Winnipeg in Week 2. Week 3 could very well see Collaros and Masoli going at it for there. But big CFL 110 edition coming up right after Winnipeg Sports Talk. So make sure to stick around for that. Let me quickly thank all the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at Coolbet Canada. Quickly on Coolbet, poker is back, and we're going to do it next Monday. I think the Monday's better than Sunday. We had a lot of people that, you know, wanted to play, but were coming back from the lake or whatnot. So next Monday, June 23rd, we'll be doing another WST poker tourney over at Coolbet. And I will confirm this, but I do think we'll have whoever wins is going to get an entry into the finals for a big Coolbet poker tourney where the winner is going to get a trip similar to the Costa Rica one from last year. So we'll keep you up to date on the details for that, but mark it down. Next Monday, June 23rd, 8:30 p.m. Winnipeg time. We'll fire up another poker tourney. And send us a message. If you haven't been in it before, we'll let you know how you can enter. We'll post it on the socials. Oh, and one other thing, too. I'm looking forward to getting out to some of the RBC Scramble qualifiers. Coolbet is a big partner with the PGA of Canada. And they are doing a contest for a dream trip out to Cabot for you and 3 friends. It is one of the greatest golfing packages I've seen before. If you are playing at Coolbet, if you're betting on the Cup Final, whatever, make sure to go to the promotions tab and just simply opt in. And for every $50 you wager, you'll get an entry into the ballot for the trip for 4 to Cabot. And we'll hit on that later on when Jake joins us at the end of the program. Shout out to our friends at Princess Auto, of course, Prairie Toyota dealers, Ben Moss, St. Vital Dental Center, Rollies Transfer, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, Aikens Lake, F Apparel, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, the Goldeyes, Assiniboia Downs, Breezy Bend. We'll get to a why not question of the day for Not AutoCorp, Waverly and McGillivray. And of course, your fan feedback brought to you by fansfirst.ca. Welcome to everybody in chat. What's going on? And welcome to you, Michael Remis. What is up?
You know, just counting down to Game 6. Could the season end tonight? Could we see former Winnipeg Jet defenseman Nate Schmidt lift the Stanley Cup? Possibly. Paul Maurice. Got me thinking, Huss. Could Paul Maurice be the first Winnipeg Jets 2.0 player to get to the Hockey Hall of Fame? Or not player, like member of the organization to get to the Hockey Hall of Fame? Or Connor Hellebuyck, who knows how long he's going to play for? How much time does Paul Maurice have after possibly going back-to-back Stanley Cup? So a lot of topics about Florida if they win. What do you think of this Florida dynasty? 3 straight Stanley Cups, 2 wins. Edmonton, back-to-back Stanley Cup loser. That's got to be pretty tough, but the questions will be answered tonight. I'll be tuning in. Roberto Luongo banging the drum, not a Dolphins player. Florida's never won when a Dolphins player bangs the drum pregame. So we'll see.
Listen, it's cool to have Luongo. Luongo is synonymous with that franchise. Have Bobby Lou bang the drum. But, I mean, I don't care which side you are on, which side. I mean, I guess if you bet the Panthers or Panthers in 6, you want them to win tonight. Let's get this thing back to Edmonton for a Game 7. That being said, the Oilers are going to need to be a hell of a lot better than they've been at times in this series if they want to, find a way to beat the Florida Panthers and get this thing back. I mean, they had a miracle in Game 4 coming back from that 3-0 deficit. They did not follow that up with a strong game. The Panthers did, and it's pretty clear what the job is tonight. Find a way to win a hockey game and get this thing back to Northern Alberta for Friday night when the cup will be in the building and will be handed out one way or the other. The cup will be in the building tonight, but certainly the Oilers are hoping to keep that sucker in the case and get it on a plane up to Edmonton for Game 7 on Friday night. We'll be spending some more time talking about the Cup Final when Dennis Bernstein joins us right away. And we're going to get to a couple clips from Chris Johnson very shortly. I do see somebody in chat, Ben Howard, mentioning just the latest from Elliot Friedman on Nikolai Ehlers. And we said this yesterday on the show and played that clip. It does sound like Ehlers is going to be going to July 1st to see what is out there, which does, of course, mean that he wouldn't be able to sign an 8-year deal here in Winnipeg. But the door isn't closed on the Winnipeg Jets. But as we did yesterday in the fan feedback poll on the program, as time has continued on and you're hearing that this is going to get to July 1st, I think the optimism that the Winnipeg Jets can hold on to Nikolai Ehlers is diminishing. But I think we had the poll yesterday. What was it, Reem? 30%, 29 or 30% still felt that Nikolai Ehlers would stay, but 70% of our listeners and viewers that were with us yesterday voting had sort of come to grips with the fact that they don't expect Ehlers to be back in a Jet jersey.
Yeah, I think we got to start preparing ourselves for Nikolai Ehlers in another jersey now. We all remember, what was the line from The Athletic? That ship has sailed when it came to Connor Hellebuyck and his future with the Jets.
Yep.
That was the Pierre LeBrun line, and we've been citing athletic sources too, and every time someone's like, well, that's what you said about Hellebuyck and Scheifele, but we're closer to July 1. That was a year and a bit away from free agency. Like, they weren't even in the final year of the deal, Hellebuck and Scheifele, when they signed. But Ehlers, I mean, it's the 17th right now, 14 days away from becoming a UFA. I think you would want to hear what's out there, and I'm curious what the result is going to be. I'll have to be tuned in. But there were some reports that Mitch Marner is going to, could take his time and make his decision, and you wonder if that decision is going to affect all of them. I do wonder, like, July 1 opens and you have signing silent. If you can't talk, how do you have all these signings coming so fast, discussing these $1 million contracts? It's always puzzling to me how the
it
framework
shouldn't be. Remember
is
when we had Neil Smith on last week? And I said, hey, Neil, what's happening right now with the 30 general managers that are in the Stanley Cup? Are they preparing for the draft? And he's like, no, the draft is all prepared. The scouts have their list ready to go. It's mainly just tampering. And, you'll have a guy that'll talk to a guy. Certainly, I think there is expressions of interest being thrown out to a number of players. Listen, the Marner situation is fascinating in that there will be plenty of offers from Mitch Marner. Does he go to just simply the highest bidder? Take potentially $14 million a year? But that could mean going to a Chicago or a San Jose or an Anaheim for a team that's not contending. And this I think would burn Leaf fans the most, Remis. After the way that he grinded the Leafs for the last contract that he had, if he decided to take less or take a team-friendly deal to chase a ring, like maybe a Kevin Durant. Can you imagine Mitch Marner ending up on the Florida Panthers after they win a second cup and taking less to do it? I mean, that would be like a nuke to the Toronto Maple Leafs fan base. I still think he's going to get paid. He'll get paid very well, but I am fascinated as to where he ends up. But to your point about whether he takes his time, there will be a domino to fall because, he'll be getting the most money on the market. But the likes of the Sam Bennetts, if he gets to July 1st, the Nikolai Ehlers, many of those players, especially Ehlers when we're talking about Marner, I think would be a natural pivot to teams that, are focusing on Marner. If they can't get him, I think a sizable offer might be there for Nikolai Ehlers. And again, that's why after all that he's given the Jets, I would love for this to be done and him staying here. I can't really blame him at this point with this free agent class, with the salary cap going up, to sort of just see what might be put on his desk come the 1st of July.
Yeah, curious how that's going to play out, what teams are going to be looking different going into next season. You could see Mitch Marner in a different, you will see him in a different jersey. Ehlers could be in a different jersey. I always enjoy when they come out with the new the new update for EA Sports NHL, and you get to test out all the new teams before the season. So some change, and we haven't really seen that lately. Guys have been re-signing earlier, longer, but with the cap going up, all of a sudden there's more money available to these guys, and with not a lot of free agents available, players or teams are ready to open up the checkbook for Marner, for Ehlers, Brad Marchand, with Sam Bennett, although it sounds like he'll be back with Florida. I feel like this is a more intriguing July 1 than in the past.
Yeah, it's not as big of a class, but Mitch Marner's as big of a free agent that's hit the open market probably since Tavares.
Yep.
And listen, the Nikolai Ehlers may not be as much of a household name in other spots. Everyone here in Winnipeg knows, and people that really follow the game and pay attention to the Jets know just how dynamic of a player he is and what he can bring to a team. And by the same token, what a hole he'll leave in the Jets lineup in the top 6 if he's not a Jet later on. As I say, we'll stay on top of this, and that topic will continue until we have some sort of an idea of what's happening. And looks like that's going to be after Canada Day that week on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Listen, we're going to get to Jonathan Toews. I see Dylan Young wanting to talk about that. We'll hear from Chris Johnson in just a moment. But CJ also touched on potential modifications between the NHL and the NHLPA that could include some kind of playoff salary cap to prevent teams from exploiting loopholes. Remis, to me, this is long overdue. I know there's a lot of talk about the tax rates in different spots. That's not changing, and nothing's going to happen with that. This is in the CBA, and it has allowed a number of teams to, really play loose with the rules. And certainly, you can call it not necessarily cap circumvention, but I think if you dig a little deeper in a number of cases, that's exactly what it has been. So I'm fully in favor of this. I think it's overdue, and the sooner they can agree on some kind of playoff salary cap to truly make it an even playing field for everybody, or as close to it as possible, given all the other variables, it'll be a good thing for the National Hockey League.
Yeah, and I've heard Bill Daly alluding to this on interviews with Sirius XM NHL Network Radio, saying, hey, they're having these conversations and, playoff salary cap, something like that, as we've seen teams put players on LTIR, make trade deadline acquisitions, and then, game one of the playoffs, these guys are ready, and you have a roster in the playoffs on ice that you could not field during the regular season because it would be over the salary cap. So, this is technically within the rules, but I don't know if it's within the spirit of the rule. And you're seeing, look, Edmonton certainly benefited from Evander Kane being injured, and he's been playing pretty well since coming back. In Florida with Matthew Tkachuk's injury allowed them to get Seth Jones. And again, Patrick Kane was kind of the first one where he had the timely injury and came back in time for the playoffs. And you can add so much more at the trade deadline. So well done by the NHL. We criticize a lot of decisions that they make in regards to, the playoff format or the point system, but this seems to be one where they're getting it right.
Yeah, listen, I think the NHL is fine with that. It was a matter of getting the players on board, and the NHLPA represents all the players, not just the players on the teams that have been sort of circumventing at least the spirit of the rules. So let's get this done, make it happen. We'll see whether this is something that could be in effect for next year or waiting for a new CBA. Well, we mentioned that report from Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson also spoke on the CJ show about Jonathan Toews' comeback and where he will end up. Obviously, the Winnipeg Jets very much in the mix. It has been a topic on this program. We get asked about it each and every day. So if we've got some information, we're going to give it to you here on WST. This is Chris Johnson earlier with the latest update on where things stand with Jonathan Toews.
Well, it's a huge week for Toews. I think, he can't officially sign a contract till July 1st. Unlike a lot of other players on the list, because he's not under contract to NHL teams right now, he can have those discussions. And I would think in some point here in the next few days, he's going to determine his landing spot. And it sounds like he's really narrowed the list in. And the Winnipeg Jets are still among the teams that have a shot at him. It would be quite a story, obviously, being a Winnipeg guy. I think for Toews, there's a huge element of the unknown here. Let's look at the positives. Physically and mentally, I think he's in a great place from what I've heard. And, we're having this time, and I know we've highlighted it, but I want to keep banging this drum as long as it's going. Mm-hmm. We're having the older guy rise in the NHL right now, where a lot of veteran players are having their moment. And I just think there's a little hope to be found in all that Toews can come back, and it might take some time. Like, I think wherever he signs, it's not impossible. He's a third line center to start, and then, he's got to build his way through the team. But, he's going to, obviously the comeback is real.
All right. So there's Chris Johnson, Riemann. This is a tough one because I think we all agree that there's a big need here in Winnipeg. And, I know some people are saying, he's a fourth line guy. Some people are saying he's a top six guy. We really don't know. But if he feels good and is a good mental state and is coming back to resume his NHL career, this guy is not doing it to be a bit player and just say, hey, I made it back to the NHL. He's done far too much. He's got too much on his resume. He's accomplished too much to not feel that he can be an impact player and help a team win. And obviously the ability to win is, I think, a big part of the decision that he's going to make. There'll be a lot of other things. the ability to play in front of friends and family here in Winnipeg and, really contribute to a team in his hometown, I think is probably a little bit romantic for some people, but, hopefully that holds some weight as well. But it does sound like these teams are being narrowed down, and the Winnipeg Jets, according to Chris Johnson, still very much a part of the mix. Here's one more from CJ, just a little bit more on the fit with the Jets, but also like the timeline of this decision and this fit here in Winnipeg.
Winnipeg and Colorado, I think, are the most likely potential landing spots for him, and I do think he's gonna get to the finish line on a decision, in the relatively near future. I don't know if that'll be communicated or not. We'll just have to see how it plays out. But he doesn't sign the contract officially till July 1st, but he's kind of one of the first free agents, unless someone re-signs somewhere in the meantime here, that's gonna pick their landing spot.
Teams like Winnipeg make a lot of sense for Jonathan Toews. Anyone else you're thinking?
Yeah, the Colorado Avalanche, I think, is in his wheelhouse potentially too. If you're Jonathan, it's about the fit. It's about coming back to a winning situation, which I think both of those teams offer him. The Jets, a little disappointment, obviously, naturally, with the way their season ended. But when you view it in the cold light of day, they won a President's Trophy and they got to Game 7 of the second round. I mean, it was a bumpy, rocky playoffs, a little up and down, especially for Connor Hellebuck, who won the Vezina and the Hart, as you mentioned earlier. But I think that what an opportunity for a great story would be. First of all, much like Gabriel Landeskog, I think people are cheering for Toews to get back and have a chance to, a lot of athletes don't get to do this, but potentially have a chance to finish his career on his own terms, right?
Colorado is really interesting because they re-signed Brock Nelson. Nelson signed a 3-year deal at $7.5 a year, which leaves the Avalanche right now, as we do this show today, with only $1.2 million in cap room. Now, that could be a deal that they sign. It's $1 million, and there's some incentives that they end up needing to pay and worry about next year based on overages, and the cap will go up and they'll be able to afford that. So, I mean, it is doable. But when I look at, like, if you're Jonathan Toews and you're deciding between Colorado and Winnipeg, two teams that were very close, both contending teams, both had really good seasons, all of that. Where does Jonathan Toews fit in? And think about this from Toews' perspectives. And again, I maintain he's coming in wanting to be an impact player, believes that he can be, or he wouldn't be doing this. In Colorado, you've got Nathan McKinnon at center. You've got Brock Nelson at center. Gabriel Landeskog is there. Now, Necas, he has been playing on the wing at times. We're not sure whether he is long for Colorado, but he's another guy with center experience. And then, of course, they picked up Charlie Coyle, who's got one more year on his deal at $5.25. Ross Colton's a center as well. Jack Drury. I mean, they've got a lot of guys in that position. So if you're Jonathan Toews and you're thinking, I want an opportunity to potentially play in the top 6, I want an opportunity to show that I can still be a dominant player, I am a center and want to be there, the opportunity is far greater in Winnipeg than it is in Colorado, I would argue.
Yeah, I would agree as well. Colorado, Brady set at center. McKinnon, they signed Nelson. They traded for Coyle, although his name has kind of been thrown around. And Jack Drury, who they just traded for in the Rantanen trade. So they're pretty set at center. And for the Jets, you've Adam Lowry out for the first couple of months. You could have him slot in third line. Maybe if Nemestikov is going to continue with the second line. But I'm curious for the Jets, is Jonathan Toews, assuming Ehlers leaves, is he the Ehlers replacement? Is he going to be the Jets' prize of this offseason? We'll have to wait and see. I'm not sure if that would be a viable replacement, but would you want to see Jonathan Toews on the Jets making an impact? 100%. And just to corroborate Chris Johnson's report, Nick Alberga, the Golden Muzzy on X of Leafs Morning Take, says it sounds like Jonathan Toews is close to making a decision. Hearing something could go down this week. Still, a few teams in the mix. sounds like it's down to 3 teams. Winnipeg and Colorado, as Chris Johnson reported today, are 2 of them. So we're on we're on Toews watch right now. Could go down this week. I'll be feverishly refreshing my phone more than I already am, as much as my wife does not like that, but could be ready by your phone, Huss. Could be at any time. You could be in the produce section hearing Jonathan Toews contract.
Well,
news.
it was funny because I was out at Clear Lake on the weekend, and you and I were texting about this, and it did dawn upon me that I was on the 8th hole at that golf course on the 2nd of July, when Rick Bowness was named the head coach of the Winnipeg Jets. So it's always somewhere else and doing something weird when this big news comes up. We're going to get into the Cup Final and see what our pal DB's been hearing from the rest of the media as they're all gathered down in South Florida. Just before we do that, big thanks to our friends at Rolly's Transfer. Folks, if you've got a move coming up this summer or fall, lean on Rolly's, family-owned and operated for over 60 years and the most trusted name in the moving business. Head over to Rollies.com and click on the request an estimate in the top right corner. Put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. And then let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to be moved. And our friends at Rollies will turn it around with a great quote quickly for you and get you locked in for the white glove treatment and service that Rollies is famous for, now into their 7th decade. For all your moving needs, make it Rollies Transfer. Find out more, request an estimate today over at Rollies.com. The cup could be handed out tonight. And if that's the case, the winning team will have plenty of smiles, probably a few missing teeth as well. When you're thinking about getting teeth worked on and smiles, you think of Dr. Terry and our friends at St. Patel Dental Center with that beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's, free parking in the background, and a full-service dental operation to take care of customers from 6 months to 99 plus, as they've been serving generations of Winnipeggers. Pop by and see him or go online to stpateldental.ca, make an appointment, and tell them your friends at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. We got another great Lake weekend coming up for all of you. If you have not already tried the Canadian Club Pack with the ready-to-drink coolers, the Canadian Club and Ginger Ale, the Citrus Smash, the Half and Half, it's available now, all 3 flavors together in the Club Pack at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And of course, if you're thinking about Canadian whiskey, it's always the OG, the original Canadian Club, the standard when it comes to Canadian whiskey. And hey, speaking of those lake weekends, if you haven't been out yet, you got to get that camper ready, your boat ready, or maybe get the ATV on the road. You got to have batteries for all of that. And listen, it's time to wake up Winnipeg and stop overpaying for batteries at the big box stores. Head on down to Manitoba Battery with 2 locations and save up to $60 a battery as opposed to going to one of those big box chains. Shop local, save money, and get the best in customer service at Manitoba Battery. And hey, don't forget, you're busy, we know. Give them a holler or order online at manitobabattery.com, and they will deliver the batteries to you for free anywhere inside the city of Winnipeg. It is just that easy. All right, it's time to bring in Dennis Bernstein from the Cup Final. This segment is brought to you by Prairie Toyota dealers who want to remind you to get in and go with the Toyota Tundra. Quality that means it has the strength to take on any challenge, off-road or hauling a heavy load, and is backed by the peace of mind knowing it's a Toyota. So take the road less traveled in comfort, room for teammates, friends, and gear, and have heads turning everywhere you go with the incredible looks of the Toyota Tundra. From $154 weekly for 60 months at 5.39% APR with $71.99 down. Hybrid options also available. Visit shoptoyota.ca. Dennis Bernstein of the 4th period joins us now. And DB, we had the extra travel day. First off, how has the travel been? It was crazy last year. You guys were taking days. You were probably on a private jet, but I know Dave is moonlighting. There has been a little bit of time, but it's funny. The short break between the games actually included the last travel from Florida to Edmonton. How have you all been hanging in?
Yeah. Actually, better than last year because there's no – Hustler, I've been in Florida for 5 days in June. It's never rained. And of course I go to Alberta and it rains, right? It's thunderstorm, right? So last year it took Dave after game 2. I got out at 6:30 a.m. out of Fort Lauderdale. Dave got out at 9. I went home. It took him 32 hours to get to Edmonton. So last year was brutal. This year, not so bad. The tough day, Hustler, was the one day between Florida and Edmonton, between 4 and 5. And I think you saw it in the players as well. I think the low energy from the Oilers, I think something. It's the oldest team in the league. And I think that one day of travel impacted them on the ice. Now, Hustler, before we start, got to ask you a question. I was on Toronto radio last night, and they opened with all of Canada wants the Oilers to win. And then I was on in Calgary this morning, and they kind of disputed that claim that all of Canada wants the Oilers to win. So what's the feeling in Winnipeg about the Oilers winning it all?
I would say, Dennis, that more than in previous years, I think you've got a lot of people that normally wouldn't have been pulling for Edmonton before are sort of in. If you go to Calgary, longtime Calgary Flames fans, it'll be over their dead body. And right. I will tell you that there is certainly a generation of fans here, people my age that had their childhoods ruined by the Edmonton Oilers through the 80s that have a tough time coming around to it. Personally, at this point, I'm so sick and tired of hearing about how long it's been since a Canadian team. I'm almost willing to hold my nose and see the Oilers win it. And, we've talked about it a lot on the show. There are still some holdouts. It's far from unanimous, but I do think the majority of our listeners are able to put bygones be bygones and, hoping for it. The bottom line is I sure as hell, and I think everyone should want the Oilers to win tonight because this series deserves a 7th game. I mean, they haven't all been classics, but the ones that have been, Dennis, have been about as good as Stanley Cup hockey and playoff hockey gets.
Yeah, well, Hustler, every game goes over the goal total, right? 6.5. Every game's been over. Even the last game, right? 3-1 in the third. Like, all right, this is going under 5-2, right? Yes, we deserve a game 7. I think we're going to get it. I think that the Oilers play best, and Chris Malbach said it this morning. They play best when their backs against the wall. And not only that, Hustler, it's not even about the Oilers. In the Tampa series, Florida had a chance to close it out, didn't do it. In the Toronto series, they won it. They went to a game 7. Right? In the conference final, they had a chance to close out Carolina at home. Didn't do it. Last year in game 5, they could have won in 5 at home. Didn't do it. I think we're going 7 because Hustler, at the end of the day, with all the changes going on in all this, there's not much separating these teams. Now, Leon Draisaitl was right this morning. They can't keep chasing the game, Hustler. Not against that team. That when they get up, they don't lay back. They still pressure you. But I wouldn't be shocked. I picked the Oilers in 7 to start. I wouldn't be shocked if I'm getting on a plane Thursday and going back to Edmonton for Friday.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you, and I love the fact that you brought up, we've spent so much time talking about the Oilers, but you make a great point, Dennis. I mean, Florida has not had maybe as much killer instinct as Paul Maurice would have liked to in clinching situations earlier on this year.
At home, yeah.
And I think about, like, there was game 6 between Toronto and Florida. I mean, the Panthers went in and emasculated the Maple Leafs on home ice, came back home, seemingly ready to roll over them, and the Leafs found a way to win. Now, credit to Florida. They were once again the Florida Panthers, and game 7 wasn't even close, but we did get to that point. And I would say this, we should all expect a lot more from the Oilers, especially the top players, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, knowing how close they came last year. I can't imagine this is not a game where we don't see the best of those guys in particular, even if the supporting cast maybe hasn't been up to what Florida's supporting cast has been.
It was a bad effort across the board, but Leon did not have a good game. He didn't. I'm sure privately or publicly he would admit that he needs to be way better because when you're top heavy, you're still top heavy. 97 and 29 have to have their best, and they've been having problems getting to their game. That Leon said it. Like, why is that? He's we fall behind. They've taken, I think it's 14 stick penalties, the Oilers, in the final. 14. They've been so undisciplined, led by everybody's favorite in Winnipeg, Evander Kane. Evander had a great game 1, and it's been downhill since then. Now, he's going to go back up top in the top 6 tonight. The one thing, and we can debate forever, Hustler, about the goaltending. And look, this is unprecedented. correct? We've never had a game 6 where the night before the coach didn't know who the goalie was. If he's legitimately saying he didn't know until today, and it's Stuart Skinner, right? It's unprecedented, but the depth that the Oilers had and won them games in other rounds. Remember, in the Kapanen had a series clinching goal against Vegas. Like Paterson scored a tying goal in Game 3, but the depth was horrendous. And I think what happened, Hustler, as Chris Novak maybe thinks as smart as he is, after he won Game 4, he made all those changes in the lineup. And they came out, they had no continuity in Game 5. They had no energy. He shifted guys left on forward lines, on defensive pairs. He outsmarted himself. I think, look, they haven't played great defense. They're getting marginal goaltending. Like, their depth players are starting not to produce. But the coach owns some of this too, because I just really waited. I hated those changes. Those are changes you make after a loss, not after a win. You scored 5 goals in Florida. You come here, you change all the lines. You get 18, 19 shots on goal, and you get basically 1 goal in that game. That's not good enough. It's not good enough from a playing standpoint. It wasn't good enough from a coaching standpoint. But they have a chance to redeem themselves tonight here in Sunrise.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, Dennis, because earlier today I was doing the lock shop with Dusty out in Edmonton, and I asked him. It frankly caught me off guard that Kapanen wasn't in the lineup and is returning in. I'm like, because Perry Kapanen at times has looked like a player we didn't even recognize compared to.
Yes.
I mean, so anyways, that was surprising. But you bring up Evander Kane. And to be honest, I think that this game, Evander Kane might be one of the most important players wearing an Edmonton jersey tonight. If he's going to be up there with Leon Draisaitl, well, I'll harken it back to a series that you remember well, the first round with the LA Kings.
Sure.
The Kings had the Oilers on the ropes, up 2-0, up late in that third period. Who was the guy that not only scored the goal, but got into the crease, was close enough that Jim Hiller thought it was a good idea to throw a challenge? That was Evander Kane. And Kane has had moments. Playing in the bottom 6, it's been whatever. He has the opportunity of playing with one of the greatest players in the National Hockey League tonight in Leon Draisaitl. I'm with you. Draisaitl will be Leon Draisaitl tonight. If Evander Kane can play some of his best hockey, I think he can get on the score sheet, and I think he can be a big, big difference maker. The guy has a lot of critics. He brings a lot of it on himself. You can change a lot of that or have people get over a lot of that with a big game tonight. And there's no tomorrow if he doesn't have that. And it's a really interesting line with Kapanen coming back in. I think he'll have a big jump, and Evander on the wings with Draisaitl in the middle.
Yeah, I know why they put Evander on the 4th line. He took dumb penalties, right? That's why he cut his playing time. And I know Corey Perry's an ageless wonder, but Hustler, don't you think that all that time on ice is catching up with a 40-year-old guy? And I know he scored the other night, but that was kind of a giveaway goal. I didn't really you need Evander Kane tonight. You do. Especially Nugent Hopkins didn't practice yesterday. He was on ice today. He's going to play. Nuge isn't the same guy. He isn't. Now, they say hand, maybe wrist injury, but he's taking faceoffs. He's making good passes on the power play. But yeah, if they need Evander. I mean, a couple of years ago, certainly they had to go to Connor and say, do you want this guy? And Connor wanted this guy for a game like this. So let's go, Evander. This is not a legacy game. It's not just one game. But if you're going to win, pairing Evander, you have to do it. He's a talented player. He's an impact player when he's at his best, right? Cut out the clowning, make better decisions, and you might help your team win and go back to Edmonton for Game 7.
Yeah, listen, I know that discipline is not something that we normally associate with Evander, more so lack of discipline. But let's face it, that is going to be paramount for the Oilers from top to bottom. I mean, the amount of stick fouls, that number is crazy. And usually if you're that careless, put it this way, you got to be really good to outscore that sort of lack of discipline. And it's gotten them to this point, but the Florida Panthers are the final boss for a reason right now, and they're going to need to be better in a number of different areas. Let's look at the top of the food chain there in Edmonton. Connor McDavid has certainly had some moments so far in this Cup final, but I think we're still waiting for that quintessential McDavid game, if you will. Where are you at on Connor? What have you heard from him? You're following the series. Where are the Oilers at with the guy that is really going to be tasked with leading them back to Edmonton and hopefully with a win?
He had one goal in the final, and it was when they were down 3-0. He hasn't been an impact player. They need 2 goals and 2 assists from him tonight. They need 1 and 3 from Leon. That's what you need. Like, you're not getting a hat trick from Pakolzin, right? And here's the problem, right? Their wingers aren't. The Zach Hyman injury is huge for this team.
Oh yeah,
he was the most right. He led. Here's a guy who scored 50 goals 2 years ago and didn't score. Went to the playoffs and said, you know what? How can I be an impact player? By hitting everybody. He led the playoffs in hits before he got injured. Right? Their wingers are not championship wingers. They aren't. Their best winger is Corey Perry. He's 40 years old. Like, and you consider Nugent Hopkins a center still. Right? Here's the question, Hustler. If they fall behind, how soon do they have to go to the nuclear option of going 97 and 29 together, which weakens this team? And Hustler, the bottom 6, they've had their moments. They've contributed. But Skinner, Frederick, and Henrique is your shutdown line? That's not a shutdown line. That's why the goal total is going over every game. That's why they're going to have to outscore the Panthers tonight to win the game. They're not winning this game 3-1. This hasn't been a great defensive series, Hustler. I think the number's going to go over again. But there are flaws in this lineup. And if they fall behind again, what happens? You certainly need more from Evander Kane. You need more from your wingers. We'll see what happens in the 60 minutes tonight.
What did Knobloch have to say about the goaltending situation going into tonight?
Well, I have 2 great goalies, and I trust them both, and blah, 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 right?
It's got to be Stuart Skinner, right?
Yeah, it's Skinner. Yeah, it's going to be Skinner. But I have no problem the way it played up, right? Because I would have, after 4, I would have played
Pickard.
Calvin Pickard in Game 5. Like, he helped win you the game. He's been good. He was 7-0. And I would have held Stu for this game. You're holding Stu Skinner for the elimination game. He's your better goaltender. And I know it's a great story about Pickard, and he's 7-1 in the playoffs. And I know that we want to wax poetic about the 2 goals that Marchand scored, which is great to see a guy 37 years old come into a new team and do this. Those 2 goals weren't great, Hustler. They were bad goals. They are stoppable goals. So I get going back to Skinner. I think it's the only option. And look, I was here for Game 7 last year. Stu played great. He got beat shortstop by Ron, lost 2-1. Right? If he plays like that again, I think they can win the game. But it's got to be the guys in front of him. And I keep going back to one thing, Hustler. In Game 4, Edmonton was up with 2 minutes to go. Ekholm went off the ice with 2:14 left. He came back on with 20 seconds remaining after Reinhart scored. He wasn't on the ice to protect the 1-goal lead, and then you saw how a 37-year-old guy, as great as he is, beat him the other night in Game 5. He's certainly hurt, and he's on the 3rd pair, right? So that's another issue that you have with respect to the defense. The defense they're going to have their best game defensively. And the other challenge with the defense is, other the zone exits, other than Connor McDavid, they've been bad. They can't. The intense forecheck pressure, the 2 guys going in by Florida, has disrupted this team. And the only time they didn't do that, Florida, and that's on Paul Maurice, is when they took that 3-0 lead in Game 4. This could be over already. If they didn't just do like the Kings did and just lay back and think you're going to win easy and win 6-1. It doesn't happen with this team. So I'm really eager to see how the Oilers handle the forecheck pressure, because it's the main reason they're down 3-2, other than guys maybe not playing at the top of their game.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I think we, if you're on the Oilers side of things, you're expecting and wanting and needing more for some guys. There's a reason why it isn't easy. You're playing the Florida Panthers, and this team is maybe the most perfectly built for playoff hockey team we've seen in a long time, and are on the verge, Dennis, of doing something incredibly rare, going back-to-back, 3 straight trips to the Cup Final. What's fascinating about this team is that it is a little different than last year. I mean, many of the same players, but this series that Brad Marchand is having, the entire playoffs that Brad Marchand is having, is truly phenomenal. And much like, Evander Kane talking about, Brad Marchand has his plenty of detractors, and it is somewhat stomach churning at times to be glazing him this way. But my God, he has just been absolutely phenomenal. And that performance on Saturday night, the 2 goals that he scored, it wasn't just a statement that, hey, we're here ready to win the Cup. I took it as a statement to the rest of the National Hockey League to get your checkbook ready for the 1st of July. I know you've been talking, and everyone's been talking about Marchand through the series. You can give us your thoughts on how well and how important he's been for the Panthers. But what are you hearing about Brad Marchand's future and how much this has helped him and his market value come signing what will likely be his final deal as an NHLer?
Well, coming to the team, and I've said this before, this is a Hall of Fame player, right? No question. I think the credentials are there. Like, normally when a Hall of Fame player gets traded to a team at the trade deadline, you know what he's going to do? He's going to walk into Zito's or Maurice's office and say, I want to play with Barkov and Reinhart, or Barkov and Verhaeghe. And they said, well, you might be a better fit with Lundell and Listerainen. It's been their best line, by far, the most effective line, the one that's been utilized the most, a third line like
consistent
this.
every game.
Absolutely. So for a guy to defer like that and say, okay, I'll play with these two kids, it's worked perfectly, right? And it's a grin. Look, here's the thing. With respect to him staying in Florida, I don't know. If you're going to pay Sam Bennett, how can you pay this guy, right? You win a cup, you shake his hand, you thank him for it. He goes out and he signs with some team for $8 million for 4 years. I don't know how they can do that. And Huss, you're right about one thing. This isn't the same team. Their fourth line is totally different, right? There's no Lamborghini. There's no Stenlund. Those guys left. Brendan Montour left. They signed Nate Schmidt. OEL left. A great piece of business and you talk about perfectly built playoff teams. How can you argue that? Hustle, they went to the Cup final 3 years in a row. Nobody does that anymore in the Stanley Cup, in the salary cap era. I do want to say one thing. Whoever's going to tell me about state taxes can take a hike, right? What did Bill Zito do with this team? He traded for Tkachuk, and he traded a 115-point player at that point. He traded for Bennett. He traded for Reinhart. He got Forsing on waivers, right? He signed for Verhaeghe. His first contract he signed with for Verhaeghe, $1 million a year for 2 years. He signed Mikkola for $2.5 million a year. Like, don't talk to me about state taxes. This guy's done an incredible job. And the same thing in Tampa. They drafted and traded their way. I've never heard a player say, yeah, the final decision came down to state taxes. Yeah, sure, I take home more. I want to win, right? I want to get max out my money. It's been an incredible job by Bill Zito if they can complete this task because, like you said, it's not done anymore. When do we start talking about a word dynasty? Maybe with the Blackhawks, but that was a different type of team. This team has had changes. This team, Hustlers, 6 years ago, they lost to the Islanders in the playoffs, and 5 people called them soft. Like, people forget what was going in Florida before that. And it was the same state taxes back then when they were soft and lost in 5 and nobody wanted to go to the games. Now there's 19,000 every night, and they're on the cusp of doing something that few teams do.
Yeah, listen, I mean, the whole business about state tax, I mean, I guess if you're going to have that conversation, maybe do it around July 1st when, individuals are making decisions as unrestricted free agents based on what they're going to get paid. It has almost zero to do with how they've built their clubs. Now, I'm with you. I mean, listen, you got beautiful weather. There's a lot of great things to like about playing in Florida and Tampa and Dallas and Vegas and Nashville. The tax situation is a part of it, but let's not make it that these teams are sitting there and are there because of that. I mean, there's been some incredible work, and Bill Zito, that's why he's a finalist for GM of the Year every single season right now. And like you talk about the waiver pickup they've had, and Verhaeghe, I mean, they've identified players. Now, listen, from a trade perspective, like I will say this, you compare the Florida situation to Winnipeg, where have to list, anyone with a no move or no trade. Like I certainly will say Kevin Cheveldayoff's job is way harder than those guys in there. But that's more unique to Winnipeg and some of the challenges they have.
Yes,
it's not that the Florida Panthers are getting. Listen, they sucked for a long time, and the taxes were the same thing. So I mean, to your point.
Here's my last point on this, Hustler. I'll let it go. Oh man, maybe I won't let it go. Right? Okay. Who had the best this past off season? The Nashville Predators.
Off-season champs. We raised the banner. Right?
Marchessault, Stamkos, Brady Shea. They finished 30th. Okay? Last 5 of the 7 years, they made the playoffs and went out in the first round. The other 2 years, they didn't make it. It's a tax-free state. As great as Jim Nill is, as great back-to-back GMs of the year, they haven't won since 1999. Tax-free state. Nice weather. Right? So that's... To our point, we both say, Hustler, it's hard to win. It's hard to build a championship team. if the Oilers fail again, what do they do? Like, what do you do now? Like, you're that close, that two times, and you don't have the right. You have to have the right culture and the right players, winning players, not scoring players, winning players. Guys like Marchand will come in and go to the third line and do what's necessary to win. That's the secret sauce in this league to build a championship team.
Well, I agree with you, and I think there's a lot of those players on a lot of teams in the league. Like the Oilers don't get to this point without having a lot of those dogs that you just mentioned, without having players that can win games. Listen, there's only one team that wins the Stanley Cup every year. I mean, that's the thing. If Edmonton bows out tonight, I don't look at this season as an absolute failure for them and they're a bunch of losers. No. Listen, the Florida Panthers are just better. Now, the bottom line is they've got the opportunity to change that narrative completely with a win tonight.
Absolutely.
The one thing I'll say that even if they get this win tonight, I'm not sure that the Panthers won't still be a favorite in Game 7 when you consider what happened in the Toronto series, them winning Game 7 last year. There's just so much that Florida has built there in that room, and part of it is winning, part of it is the experience of having the success that they've had before, but they've been there and they've had the right ending, whereas Edmonton hasn't right now. And that's why, back to your point about, going 2-2 or 1-3, to me, 97, 29, they have to be the guys that are leading the way. And the Evander Kanes and the Kapanens and Nuge and Corey Perry, they need to get on board and be there with those guys and help them do it, because the Panthers top to bottom are such a deep team. We haven't seen that depth. At times in the playoffs, the Oilers' depth actually has been there. It really hasn't in the Cup Final so far. So you got to go with the guys that brought you, and the guys that brought you are 29 and 97, and all eyes are going to be on those guys tonight.
And if you're a Panthers, that's a scary thing. They haven't gotten loose. And Hustle, they really haven't gotten, because you mentioned their depth, they haven't blown up really any game or any series. They've won as a team, which is great.
Yep.
But when the bottom nines stops producing and makes more mistakes than goals, then you have to lean into 97 and 29. And I'm certain if they fall behind tonight in the first period, you're going to see those two guys together, and then they're going to take risks. And I forget who said it, but their profile changes, right? They take more risks. So there's an opportunity for the game if they get out to a lead, the Panthers, for it to go like Game 3 where it's 6-1, but it could be like it was Game 4, 5-4. They open it up, and that's the beauty about watching this team, is that when they're down, they're never out of the game. If it's 3-1 in the second period, I'm not packing up my laptop and going down to the press room. I want to see it. Let's see what happens. So there's certainly hope. And again, there's not much separating these teams. There really isn't. Yes, the Florida Panthers have an advantage. But you know what? They should be the more desperate team tonight, because they don't want to go back to Edmonton. Edmonton's, we're desperate to go back. But, they should be the more desperate team. And I think that at the first 10 minutes, you're going to see what you always see: aggressive forward checking, physicality from the Panthers. And look, the lack of energy from the Oilers in the building in Game 5, Hustle, was stunning. They put the crowd to sleep, and that's the loudest crowd in the league. It has to be way better, not from just an execution standpoint, from a try standpoint. There was just no energy. And I think part of it was, as we mentioned earlier, that 1 day of travel. They've had 2 days off now. They're back in South Florida. They've won in this building. There's no reason why they can't go that route and find a way to get to Game 7.
DB, always great stuff. You know what? We'll focus on the game tonight. After the cup is handed out, we'll lean on you and get some of your insight on all the free agency scuttlebutt and whatnot that you've been picking up on the road. Enjoy this one tonight. And if you have to get on that plane to Edmonton, have a safe flight, and we'll look forward to Friday.
I thought we were friends. You really want me to be in Edmonton when they lose Game 7? Is that what you wish on me? You don't want that.
You picked Oilers in 7. I may have an Oilers in 7 ticket as well. I'm not counting them out just yet.
Oh, just heaven forbid they lose.
Are you fading yourself, Dennis?
No, the scenario outside that building, if they lose Game 7. Oh, okay.
No doubt about it. Hey, pal, you have a great one. Thanks so much for doing this.
Oh, it's great being on WST Hustle. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
On. There is Dennis. Give him a follow on X at DennisTFP. And, of course, you can go and check out the site at the fourth period for everything that Dennis and the gang have cooking up. Hey, a huge thanks to our friends at Princess Auto. Of course, Princess Auto, proudly headquartered, founded right here in Winnipeg, proud sponsors of WST, and of course your Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Bombers on the road this weekend, back next week to take on the Edmonton Elks. Of course, Princess Auto has 3 locations in Manitoba where you find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them today or shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. The countdown is on to get out on the water at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. Cannot wait. Folks, if you're thinking about maybe trying to get on the water this year as well at a world-class fly-in fishing lodge where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city, including a short flight, Aikens Lake is the spot. As incredible as the world-class fishing is, the world-class hospitality of the Turenne family and the Aikens Lake team is even better. Go to aikenslake.com for more information on options and availability for the 2025 fishing season, and check them out on all their socials at Aikens Lake for more of what the Aikens experience is all about. And hey, big happy anniversary to our fellas over at F Apparel. They just cranked out their 15th year. Big sale coming up as well. Check that out at fapparel.com, where you'll find great deals on the best in custom suits for men, custom chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, an incredible selection of menswear accessories, wedding parties, lots of weddings coming up. Fellas, if you're getting married, make sure to talk to the guys at F about a special discount for the wedding party when you get your suits for the big day. F Apparel, 190 Smith Street downtown. F, that's EPH Apparel.com. All right, looking forward to bringing in our pal Cam Robinson. It's been a minute since we've had Cam on, but draft is up in the corner, and he's been all over the Jonathan Toews story. This segment is brought to you by Ben Moss. Ben Moss, proudly Canadian-owned and operated with history dating back more than 100 years, with 3 locations in Winnipeg, Polo Park, St. Vital Centre, and Kildonan Place. Committed to customer satisfaction. Check out a large selection of Canadian mined diamonds, lab-grown diamonds, and mined diamonds available with payment plans to suit your need. For more information, check out benmoss.com. Ben Moss, for the love of jewelry. Well, that jewelry they're looking for is a Stanley Cup ring. Game 6 goes tonight. There's lots of other things going on. Cam Robinson joins us now with Elite Prospects. Dude, what is up? It's great to have you back on the program. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well, man. It's good to be back on. You might hear my 8-month-old holler in the background there, but just adds a little ambiance noise to the feature.
Hey, dogs, babies, we bring them all on WST. We know that we're all working. It's a 24-hour gig, especially when you're a dad. How was the Father's Day?
Yeah, it was great, man. I'm up to 3 now, so they got lots to be thankful for, right? The kids were friendly with each other. The sun was shining. It was a great Father's Day for sure.
Hey, listen, it's great to have you back on the program. Normally at this time we really sort of dive into the upcoming draft, which I definitely want to ask you about. But you have been very. We've talked a lot about some of your reporting over the last little while because you have been all over the Jonathan Toews story. You know that has particular interest here in Winnipeg, not only because he's a Winnipeg native, but also because the Jets have had needs to improve their depth at the center position for a long time. I mean, if you could take us back a few weeks, what you've been hearing and where things stand right now.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll preface it by saying nothing is ever done, of course, until it's signed on the dotted line. But we are expecting him to make, to let a team know officially without not being able to sign until July 1 this week, in the next couple of days here, hours potentially. I've been told right from the get-go that it's Winnipeg is the front runner by far. I reported that, he was in Minnesota skating, that the Wild are very interested in offering him a deal. And the source that I spoke to said even they know he's going to sign in Winnipeg. So there's a bunch of teams that are very interested. I think upwards of a dozen teams have talked to his agent about a potential fit for him. But like you mentioned, right, the hometown, the return home makes sense. The Jets, Cup contenders. He's not looking to join a rebuilding team, obviously. Chicago was never an option for him, all the baggage and the history there, but also just so far away from contending. And then, the Jets needing that support, needing that leadership, needing that experience down the middle. And now this isn't Jonathan Toews circa 2012, right? You're not expecting that level of player. He's been off for 2 years. Expectations should be muted coming in, but I've been told, that he's not coming back to just be a figurehead here. Like he has desire, he has burn. He wants to get back in and compete. And he's training very, very hard. And so, the workouts have been getting ramped up, and they will continue to do so all throughout the summer. There won't be a summer break for Toews. And to push to play, as close to a full season as possible next year. And so I'm expecting it to be the Jets. But like I said, it's never done until it's officially done.
It is, and listen, this has been a topic on this program since it became a possibility. And listen, there's a lot of people. I mean, he's arguably the greatest player ever to come out of this city. The guy's walking straight into the Hall of Fame as soon as he's eligible. Ironically, that might get delayed if he does return to the league. But what's so attractive about this is that I think that the risk is relatively low.
Yeah.
And the reward is potentially really high because Cam, and you can maybe speak to some of the people you've talked about. When you consider what Jonathan Toews has done in this league, I don't think there is a chance that he would possibly go through what he has to do to get back into this league if he doesn't think that he can be a very good version of himself. This isn't a guy that's coming back to play 6 minutes on a fourth line and take a couple faceoffs.
No, absolutely right. And like you said, a competitor, right? When you think of Jonathan Toews, the first thing you think of is this guy is a high level competitor. He has expectations for himself. He has goals in mind. And that's what's inspired all this. And also I look back at, sometimes we saw his plays start to diminish, even before he stepped away for 2 years. Sometimes that space away, the body can really heal. And obviously he went through a lengthy process and traveled the world to try to find, some salvation there from some of the issues he was dealing with. But, different scenario. But I look at Teemu Selanne, right? He looked like he was done going into that lockout season. And then that full year off, and he came back and he was a new player and he played very, very well into his early 40s, right? He had 40 goals. He won another Stanley Cup. So not to put those expectations on Jonathan Toews, but I don't think it's completely out of the realm that he could come back, find that success, find a level of success and play another 2-3 years. Like maybe it's not just a one and done. That he's 37 is that, there could be some life left in, but he has to get over that first hump. He has to get back into the league, find his legs, get back up to speed, and then we'll see where it goes. I
guarantee you, none of our expectations will be as high as Jonathan Toews' expectations of himself.
Exactly.
And I think that's a great thing for whatever team gets the opportunity to have him start his comeback with them right here. While we're talking about older players, I mean, this run that Brad Marchand is on is just absolutely incredible. He's barged into what was thought to be a Conn Smythe that was already won by Sam Bennett. What's Brad Marchand's next contract going to be like?
Probably higher.
4 years.
Yeah, probably higher than it should be, what you're probably going to get value-wise, but it all depends on where he lands too, right? Like if he ended up staying in Florida, it's such a great spot, right? For everybody. I could say that for all those guys on that team, that returning there is probably going to only improve their value long-term and make them probably worth their dollar amount. If he goes somewhere else, like, I keep hearing Toronto. I keep hearing the Maple Leafs are very interested in offering him a contract. And now they don't have a ton of room to go crazy. But, if he ended up getting, 3x8, 4x7, 7.5, like that wouldn't surprise me at all. And even if he ends up being kind of like a 50-point player in the regular season, but then he steps up and he does what he's doing similar to what he's doing right now, he's a big game player. We know that he has a wealth of experience doing it. That's what really matters, right? He's not going to go sign for a bottom feeder who cares about regular season scoring. He's going to sign for a team that's good enough to get into the playoffs anyways, and then he can step up. But I mean, Father Time remains undefeated, and the dip will continue no matter what here. But it has been highly impressive and very entertaining to watch too. He's a highly entertaining personality, so it's great that he's doing it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Panthers are sort of victims of their own success. I mean, you got Marchand, who's come in and been incredible. You talk about a guy that's 50 points in the regular season and then turns into a playoff. Well, that is Sam Bennett. He's going to get paid. The funny thing is, the guy that's been like, their workhorse on the blue line through all of this, Aaron Ekblad, he may very well be the odd man out when all the dust is settled.
I'll say this is, and I know that's kind of the prevailing thought. And again, everything will change come July 1 when offers are actually out there, or 29th when teams are talking, is that I will not be surprised if it's Sam Bennett who's gone and it's Aaron Ekblad who stays. And that might not be the Panthers' first choice. I think ownership is very invested in keeping Sam Bennett. But, I reported the other day is that the two sides, an agent and team, haven't spoken an extension in weeks. And obviously his play throughout this postseason is going to only increase his value. So Sam Bennett might just price himself out of Florida. That just might be the way it is, where I don't think Ekblad will. I don't think he'll be able to. Now, if they do and spend all their money on Bennett, then that's going to force Ekblad out.
We're talking with Cam Robinson from Elite Prospects at hockey_Robinson. Must follow on this. You had an interesting piece on EP on Marco Rossi. What do you make of the situation with Rossi and the Minnesota Wild, and what sort of a price tag would it get to get his rights out of the Minnesota Wild as we get into a time where it would be likely to happen if it was going to?
I do expect it to happen. I've been reporting it for weeks, even going back a couple of months, that the Wild did not seem all that sweet on Marco Rossi. And they're not the only team who has a problem having a 5'9" second line center who isn't necessarily a play driver. He's not Braden Point. So he played a ton with Kaprizov and Matt Boldy, and so good players, great, supported them, facilitated them, is able to play with super high level players. He's a high skill player himself, great work ethic. He's a pro's pro, like first into the rink last. He really pushes himself to get better. I would sign me up to have, a half a dozen Marco Rossis on my team. But unfortunately, unless you are fortunate enough to have like a true big man power pivot as your one, it's difficult to have a 5'9" guy as your two. So that really shrinks the market for Minnesota to trade him. And I think we've gotten to the point with where the extent they did offer, as far as I know, they did offer Rossi some extensions, but they weren't realistic that he wouldn't sign them. And I think they've gotten to the point now where it's maybe not unattainable anymore, not tenable, is that I think it's almost assuredly he's going to get moved. Now the return package, that's the big question. And that's what everybody wants to know, because I'm sure, Minnesota, they would love, kind of a mid first round pick, a good prospect, and then it'd be like Rossi and a lesser prospect heading back, or a later draft pick, a third rounder, a fourth rounder, something like that. I'm not sure they're going to be able to pull that out, even though he put up 60 points as basically a sophomore this past season, which is excellent production for a player his age. I think it's going to be a little more muted. Maybe it's a later first round pick and a decent prospect, or a young player. I think that they'd be open to a hockey trade as well. If they could flip Rossi for maybe a bigger, more mature second line center, I think they'd be all over that.
Cam, normally at this time of year, we're talking draft, so I got to quickly pick your brain on how good is this draft? Just from we often talk, it's a really strong draft. I mean, how deep is the real talent at the top of it? What can you tell us just from afar in general about the draft before we dive into the top players?
Sure. I'd say overarching theme, it is slightly below average. First round is fine. It doesn't have that near generation or generational talent to anchor the real top end of it. Matthew Schaefer is an excellent player. I think he could develop into a number one. Michael Remis, same thing, could be a top line center, but the depth really falls out, especially towards the tail end of the first round, and then throughout the rest of the draft. It's a lot of projection. It's a lot of very small forwards with warts or lack of skating speed, or these big guys that maybe have mechanical difficulties. So overall, I'd say it's slightly below average. And I've said this before, it reminds me a little bit of 2017, really center heavy. 2017, we had loads of centers go, some hit, some missed. We had Nolan Patrick at the top there. There was Paterson, Suzuki, Gabe Vilardi, Martin Nakash were all great. But then you also had like Elias Anderson. And so there's going to be some hits. There's going to be some misses. It's a little light on defensemen. And then, there's a lot of small kind of playmaking wingers that kind of mix in, which teams don't love to reach on. So generally okay, but not something to get super excited about.
The Islanders incredibly won the draft lottery, and they'll be picking number one. How big of a win was for that? And is it pretty much a fait accompli that Matt Schaefer is going to be the guy?
It's a huge win. Obviously, to jump up that many spots, it's found money, such a low percentage that it was going to happen for them. So great for them, especially a prospect pool that could use a lot of help too. So They can't screw this up. So yes, from all indications and what I'm told, it will be Matthew Schaefer 1. It will be Michael Misa 2. But you never know. Again, like you'll get the oohs and ahs if it turned out to be Misa at 1, but that wouldn't be a bad pick either. But I do expect that to Schaefer goes to the Islanders, and that will be huge for them. It'll add to, if they keep Noah Dobson long term, now they have 2, high-end offensive guys, and I do think Schaefer could, like I said, kind of be that Drew Doughty, Miro Heiskanen level player for them long term.
I've got to ask you about the Blackhawks, who are on the clock at 3. I mean, listen, that organization didn't really seem to move forward next year. Many would say it was sort of a step back or a pause for Connor Bedard. This pick is probably not helping them in the next year or two, so I don't know whether we can say this is a crucial selection, but what do you make of their choices and what else Kyle Davidson has to do to move this thing forward and get them out of neutral?
Much like last year, Chicago holds the key to this draft, I think. And they did last year, picking at 2 and going Lev Shinnoff there instead of taking Ivan Demidov, which many expected them to do, to link up Bedard and Demidov long-term, which we were robbed of, which is disappointing. But at 3, I think that's where the draft really starts. And so, I've been told that they've made, some calls about moving up, maybe getting at 2, maybe getting at 1, and their target being Michael Misa. I think that they're open for business to simply move number 3. That they would trade that for an impact player that they could help take that step forward right now. So I think they're open to that too. It's hard to get a beat on what they're doing. I've had some people say that they don't think it's Porter Martone, that he's not at the top of their list at 3, which I think makes a lot of sense for them personally, as a bigger body guy, a playmaker on the wing that you could link up with Connor Bedard, but apparently they're looking more at the center ice position. So maybe that's Anton Frundell, the big Swedish power pivot, maybe leaves a little to be desired on the offensive upside, but has a really safe floor. Maybe it's Caleb Desnoyers, again, kind of a Jonathan Toews-like player. He hopes to be a clone of him. So yeah, whatever they decide is really going to kind of set the tone for the next several picks. And anything's good. They could push to trade up. They could trade back, or they could trade the pick entirely.
What's up with James Higgins? I mean, last year at this time, we kind of heard that he might be in the mix for the number 1 pick. And I look at a lot of draft boards and a lot of mocks, and I see him closer to 10 than 1.
Yeah, he was certainly the presumptive favorite to go 1 heading into this year. Had a tremendous draft -1, excellent at the U18, set the scoring mark, broke Nikita Kucherov's record there last year. People, I think, a little bit has fallen into, you can nitpick guys when they're under the microscope for so long. He was the first line center at Boston College this year on a team that could have run to the national championship, didn't end up going that far. He was the first line center on the under 20 World Junior team that won gold at the World Juniors. You don't see draft eligible guys in those situations very often. He is a very, very good player. He arguably has the best feet and skill combination in the draft. He has great speed. He has great handles. He has great playmaking. I think his shot is underrated. He only scored 10 or 11 goals this year, but he hit a little slump. Again, playing in college as a draft eligible, not an easy thing to do. He's going to be number 3 on my board. I think that he is being slept on. I expect that he will go back to Boston College next year, and he's going to have a very, very big year, push himself into the Hobie Baker conversation, and then come out of school. And I think that if there's a world where he does slip, 8, 9, maybe, that if he does, there's going to be teams that are going to regret that. But I think a part of that too, though, is that, he has been supplemented by Schaefer and by Misa. He's not going to jump over those 2. And then at 3 for Chicago, he doesn't really make sense for Chicago. They're very small down the middle already with Bedard, Frankie Nazar, Oliver Moore, skilled, speedy guys, not very big. You don't really want to have all small, under 6-foot guys down the middle. Okay, so jump to Utah. Well, they got Logan Cooley as their number 1 center. James Higgins is basically Logan Cooley. Like, he's probably better than Cooley at the same age, but a very similar size and skill profile and speed profile. Okay, now we're moving down. I think he makes a lot of sense for Nashville at 5, but maybe they go big. Maybe they take a defenseman, or they go big on the wing or something like that. Now we're at Philly, and it's like you keep going down the list. But in my opinion, he shouldn't get past 5 or 6. And if he does, just insane value for teams behind there.
Cam, we've heard so much about big players, playoff time. We're seeing guys that are excelling, although there are the Marchands out there that don't care how big anyone is and work to find it. I've got to ask you about a kid just from down the highway from us, Roger McQueen in Brandon. We've heard about him for years. He's 6'5" plus.
Yep.
had a pretty star-crossed year, though, and didn't play a lot. I mean, just give us the CV on McQueen, the upside of him, and how the season that he's just had is going to affect where he's picked.
Yeah, so as far as pure upside, I can make a case that he could be the top pick in this draft. A 6 foot, nearly 6, skilled center. It's potential unicorn stuff. We don't see them happen that often. Right now, it does. Teams have reached before and gone really, gone bananas on some of these big skill players, and they didn't break out. Riley Tufte comes to mind. But I think McQueen, he was the most scrutinized player at the draft combine last week. I was in Buffalo for it. Everybody, all the teams were very, very interested in asking about like finding out the medical history, what was going on with the back, what was the injury later in the year that kicked you out as well. Are you going to be able to do all the testing? Did all the testing, pranked off all the pull-ups clean. The back muscles were looking good. Apparently was misdiagnosed early on in the season with the back injury. And that caused part of that delay. He says the back is 100%. Everything's good. Interviews well, really highly talented player. But teams are afraid, especially in the shadow of the Caden Lindstrom pick a year ago. Columbus took him 4th overall. He went to the combine previous to that, and it was all sunshine and rainbows. Everything's okay. The back's okay. No, I'm not going to test all the way here, but I'm good to go. I should be able to play next season. And then he didn't play all year, right? He lost an entire year of development. Yes, he came back at the very end of the WHL playoffs and got a couple games of the Memorial Cup too, but it's scary stuff for teams now to be looking at the very top of the draft and be like, no, you can't afford to lose. Like McQueen's already lost a big chunk of his development this season if it was a long-term thing. So I do think that is going to play into a lot of teams' minds, but I think that there's also value for teams to add preference to these high variance players when they have the skill and the size profile that he does. So whether that's at pick 5, whether that's at pick 8, a team should look at that and be like, okay, are we going to get ourselves a potential like power number 1 center here? Or are we going to settle for a guy that we're like probably going to be a middle 6 center, middle 6 winger, safe, going to be an NHL player for us, but like, could we have something really special here? And at some point, you have to put kind of the chips in, push him into the middle, and take that risk. I don't see him getting past 11 at Pittsburgh. I know the Penguins took him out for dinner. They took out a bunch of big men. They took out him, Murtka, who's 6'6". They took out Keishon Aitchison, who's a throwback smash mouth defender. So they're interested in a bunch of guys at that spot. But yeah, I think Anaheim, Pittsburgh, kind of that's the tail end of where he should go. And again, if he slipped by that, just tremendous value.
Is he the biggest risk reward pick in this year's draft?
Yeah, he is. I think so for sure. There's other guys like Justin Carbonneau, who played in the Q, who has the best handles in the class on like pure upside and skill alone, could be a top 5 pick, but like the IQ's maybe not there. But you're still going to get yourself a player, even if it's just like a third liner who can kind of flash some high end skill every now and again. But McQueen, it's like he could be something really, really special, or he could be like Eric Daze, and the career just doesn't go anywhere because of long term back injuries. But I don't even want to put that out there for him. And his agent's probably texting me right now saying, don't even put that out into the ether, man. So no, yeah, I think highest risk reward for sure.
Hey, just before we go, out in BC in your neck of the woods, it's a very interesting off season for the Canucks. The Canuck fans are always on the ledge to begin with. What's the vibe? Abbotsford's in the AHL final. I guess that's making some people happy. But as far as the Canucks off season, what is the buzz around that team? And what do you expect Pierre Alvain to do over the course of these next few weeks with the impending doom of Quinn Hughes' future and everything else that's happened with this team?
Yeah. Yes. The Abbey Canucks are in the finals, but their top prospect, Jonathan Lekiramaki's been a healthy scratch for days and days. So it's like, nothing can go right for Vancouver, right? It's strangely, eerily quiet, I would say, on kind of the buzz around Vancouver right now. They have, Jim Rutherford fully came out and was like, we have to trade for a second line center, and it's going to be expensive, but it'll be more expensive not to trade for a second line center. So they are all over the place looking to trade. And that 15th overall pick they own this year is 100% available. Alvin and Rutherford didn't even come to the combine. They didn't even come. One of the only teams outside of the guys in the Cup Final, or I think they're the only team who had a first round pick and that wasn't in the Cup Final. Did they know combine. It was on? They knew. And it's very, very strange, and it's been tagged around the league. Like people I've talked to on the teams that were like very curious that they weren't there. It indicates to me that they don't have a ton of interest in using that pick, that they don't really care about getting to know these players so much. But it also is a little strange because this was the last chance that the league got together. So they had a week in the same hotel and at the bar together and eating breakfast and all that to work it out. And then GMs were chatting all over the place and rumors were buzzing and swirling at the combine last week. And Vancouver was nowhere to be seen. Cammy Granado was there and Todd Harvey to interview the players. But yeah, very, very strange. I know that they're interested in Bolin Byram. Their left side's pretty jacked up already. But I mean, if Quinn Hughes is planning on leaving long term, maybe Byram could be that little stopgap. Hey, this is our new number one lefty. It's not a positive time in Vancouver these days, though, for sure, is that they looked like they were taking the right steps, pushing Edmonton to Game 7 last year in the second round, and then to fall back to earth, trading JT Miller at a loss. Who knows if Filipino is even going to be a piece for them long term. Their center depth is cratered. They're about to lose Brock Besser for nothing. Pius Suter is going to walk away. I think Thatcher Demko's interested in being moved. The ownership has to buy out one of the brothers. It's all ugly in Vancouver right now, and I don't see it turning around anytime.
Is there any chance that Paterson's traded before July 1st and that no trade kicks in?
There's a chance, but I don't think it's going to happen. And I've been pretty steadfast in that for a little while. I think they made their decision. They chose him over Miller, which was the right call. I mean, Miller's a better player in this moment, but he's older. And it's just you keep the younger player who has the higher upside. They need to find a way to unlock Paterson. If they can't get him back to even like an 80 and 85 point guy, like they're completely cooked. So they've invested a lot into finding a way to get him up. Adam Foote, the new head coach there, who's Quinn Hughes' favorite, he's made mention numerous times on how they want to get him there and how they're going to support him and bring him along versus like the tough love that they had tried last year that clearly failed. That's not the type of person that's going to respond well to that. So hopefully, I still believe in Paterson, just like a lot of teams do. That's why he would be an interesting trade asset, is that they look at it, it's like, this is a 100-point guy in his mid-20s still. We can fix him. Well, Vancouver needs to fix him.
Hey, dude, thanks so much for doing this. Always love chatting it up with you. Fill people in on what you and the Elite Prospects team have heading into the draft coming up. Always one of my number one spots to go for draft prep.
Yeah, for sure. We released our draft guide, which is massive, right? Nearly 2,000 pages. We got 5,000 scouting reports on there, 135 plus ranked players, like 300 prospect profiles, all the shades of, so comparing them to current NHL players, a little stat breakdown on a numerical breakdown of all their skills. It's awesome. Industry quotes from team executives and scouts that I accrue all year. You got to get the draft guide. We're offering 33% off on an annual subscription at Elite Prospects right now. Go check it out. You're not going to get a better deal. We're dropping all our film rooms these next 10 days. So like really in-depth breakdowns of all the first round players. I've got, mock drafts, bold predictions. I'm heading to LA in a few days here next week. I'll be sitting down with players, so lots of good features. This is the time we're churning out more content than we can even keep up on our front page. Oh, you guys just crank it out and do such a great job. Looking forward to it, and looking forward to getting back to a normal draft next year. Apparently, when the fellas can get back together. It's going to be weird. I'll be looking forward to a report from you from LA because it sounds like you'll be one of the few people that will actually have boots on the ground. Yeah. I mean, I thought I had to make a pitch to my boss about it. I was like, I think I should be there to check it out. And he's like, oh, I just assumed you would go. I was like, oh yeah, I am going to go. So there'll be a few of us though, for sure. And then obviously all the players are there and the agents and we'll, I think the fans will be pretty excited. I won't say any names, but some teams are going to be sending some pretty cool people to make the picks for them as well too. So it should be fun for the fans that are in the building as well. Thanks so much for doing this, Cam. Appreciate it. Good stuff. There's Cam Robinson at hockey_Robinson, and eliteprospects.com is where you'll find all the content 12 months a year, but especially this is the time where Cam and his team really shine. Great stuff with Cam. Appreciate him jumping on the program today. We're going to talk a little baseball for a minute. We got JBM coming up as well. Do want to thank our friends at Royal Sports for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Bombers are back. They've got tons of Bomber gear in right now. At some point in the next week or so, Royal will be the first place to get the Stanley Cup Champions gear, whether that is a back-to-back Florida Panthers shirt and hat or an Edmonton Oilers one will remain to be seen. But Royal is that spot, not to mention bikes, soccer, softball, baseball, tennis, running, huge Yeti section for you campers. Dominate summer with a trip to Royal Sports. And don't forget to get into the back and check out their amazing bike section as well. 750 Pembina Highway at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. They did do a tent sale on the weekend. They'll have another one coming up in the fall just after Labor Day weekend.
Boston Pizza is the place to be tonight. We got Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. The only better way to watch the game with your friends is to do it at BP and get in on that incredible playoff menu. Triple Pep Pizza, the Wingman Pizza, wing flights, including the Scoville Showdown for you crazies that love the hot stuff. All there for you at BP. And hey, if you are staying at home, you can always get the great taste of Boston Pizza by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right, we're going to take a trip out to the ballpark. Goldeyes are back, starting a big homestand tonight ahead of our game on Thursday. First up, though, a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug. I'll just do it myself today. I was down at LBJ actually. Was it last weekend? They had a big party going on. They've got tons of great seasonal beers right now, but they've also got a great deal right now with the 1919 and of course generic lager, which is a favorite if you had it. I think we'll be having many of those when we get out to the ballpark on Thursday for the game. Of course, it's all local beer at the ballpark for the Winnipeg Goldeyes, and no better local beer than Little Brown Jug. Pop by and see him as well. William Avenue at the brewery and tap room. Beautiful patio as well. If you haven't checked that out. All right, Goldeyes are back. Lots happening with the club ahead of the WST takeover of the lower patio deck. Thanks again to everyone that got tickets. We're fully sold out. We're looking forward to see you on the Thursday night. Right now, though, let's welcome in Andrew Collier, GM of the Winnipeg Goldeyes, as the team gets ready to start a big homestand tonight. Cash, what's going on? How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Huss?
I'm doing well. Looking forward to seeing you guys and the squad on a Thursday night. How about that? A full sellout of the patio from the WSTers. We can't wait.
Yeah, your listeners, viewers are awesome. Sold that thing out. We're going to have to plan another one later in the summer.
I think so. And as I say, the only thing I'm hoping for is nice weather and a game that went a little longer than the 1 hour, 49-minute pitching duel last year. Poor Landon Barassa. That was one of a couple 1-0 losses where he pitched absolutely brilliantly.
I think that was one of his 4 complete game 1-0 losses last year. I think so, and a 1-run loss in the playoffs too. So, got to get some run support for Landon.
Hey, speaking of pitching, Mitch Lampson, hell of a week last week. Gets the AA Pitcher of the Week after just an absolutely brilliant start. And the pitching was so good last year. The bar was set very high, but a number of guys in the staff kind of coming around to look like last year's team.
Yeah, it's been a work in progress. I know Logan and the coaching staff have been working really hard to solidify that pitching staff after a number of injuries before the season. We've talked about this before, but I think we've got our rotation set and the bullpen is starting to come around. With Mitch throwing a complete game, who needs a bullpen? Complete game, no walks, 1 run. That's what you need out of a veteran like Mitch.
It's amazing. Like you mentioned, Landon had 4 complete games last year. Mitch doing it again. And, I look at the majors and is it just a different philosophy with baseball now? Because guys get the ball taken out of their hands so early now. It is so rare to see a guy go a complete 9.
Yeah, they definitely have deeper bullpens than we do. Their rosters are a little bit bigger, but yeah, I don't know if it's fear of wearing guys out or their bullpens are just so strong in the majors. They hand off the ball relatively quickly. Yeah, it's a different game here. If a guy's pitching well and his pitch count's down, just let him roll.
So where's the team at right now? I mean, obviously a couple games under 500 going in. You had that tough start, which always happens with that long road trip. Kind of feels like it's close right now, but time for the fellas to get on a bit of a roll, and no better place to do that than Blue Cross.
Yeah, 15 and 18 right now, and we have Sioux Falls coming to town tonight, tomorrow, Thursday. They're 19 and 15. Sioux City coming in for the weekend. They're 22 and 13. Sioux City's got a real strong ball club. Talk about pitching. Their pitching staff is really good. Mongo's put together a good squad there. But we're still a work in progress, but we're getting better every series. I think we just went 4-2 on the road, so I think things are looking up. And like you said, get it rolling at home.
There's a few things we can count on in life: death, taxes, and Max Murphy raking. Once again, leading the team in homers, leading the team in RBIs. But this year, he became the all-time home run king in Winnipeg Goldeyes history, which, when you pass a guy like Reggie Abercrombie, it shows that you've been here for a long time and made incredible contributions. Just thoughts on Max, where he's at right now. And have you had a moment to sort of step back and just think of what this era of Max Murphy with the Goldeyes has meant to the team and his place in Goldeyes history?
Yeah, it's pretty special. You look back at the Goldeyes history and guys that have worn number 13, Josh Mazzola, Terry Lee, guys that could just mash the ball, and then Reggie. For Max to pass him on the all-time Goldeyes home run list, that's pretty special for him. And it was cool when we were at home when he tied the record, because we had fireworks that night, so Waterfront was closed. We were able to get that ball. And then in Chicago, Jamie, our clubhouse manager, was able to get the ball. So he's got home run 92 and number 93. He's got the ball as a keepsake. So that's pretty cool.
Does it, has there been time, especially when you think about that gruesome injury he suffered a couple years ago, like, is this all like bonus time for Max? I mean, like, be real with us. Did you ever think that he'd be able to return and continue to play at this high of a level?
I'd be lying if I said yes, I thought he could keep going. But just knowing Max and knowing how he approaches the game and how he takes care of his body in season, out of season, he's got such drive and he just wants to do well all the time. So seeing what he's doing, I guess I'm not too surprised to see this, and just hope it keeps going for the rest of the season.
Listen, just before we get to the little update on what to look forward to this week out at the ballpark, notice that you and the organization are getting in to helping out many families that are displaced by the forest fires, and doing it in conjunction with National Indigenous Peoples Day on the 21st. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Manitoba Blue Cross, our ballpark naming rights partner, came on board in a huge way to buy tickets and food for a number of the evacuees who are going through a terrible time right now. So if we can give them a couple hours at the ballpark to have a good time and maybe take their mind off what's going on at home just for a little while, then that's what we're trying to do. And huge thanks to Manitoba Blue Cross for making that happen.
All right, let's talk about this week, because, you check out this promo schedule and you realize that there is a lot of fun things happening over the course of this run. And listen, tomorrow night, coming right out of the gate with Country Night. Just give us the rundown, because I think there's a lot of people that might not have been out to the ballpark yet. Maybe they didn't get tickets with us. We've got some nice weather coming up, and there is a lot going on with a lot of really cool promos that'll only be happening once a year.
Yeah, so tonight, tomorrow, Thursday, all 6:30 starts. Tomorrow night, we are celebrating the Winnipeg Ambulance Service 50th anniversary. Pretty cool. Tomorrow night, like you said, Country Night, sponsored by your good friends and ours, Boston Pizza. Will be good to see Andrew and the crew down here.
Oh, yeah.
Thursday night, Lou Gehrig night, ALS Awareness Night. Friday night, 7 o'clock start, gates open at 5:30. We got the DJ party going on down at Craft Beer Corner starting at 5:30. That's 80s night. with a Rubik's Cube giveaway. Really cool giveaway. I was always terrible at the Rubik's Cube, like so bad that I would take the stickers off and put them back on in the right order. That's how bad I was.
The original hack.
Yeah, and then after the game on Friday, we're showing E.T. movie on the video board. People can stay after and watch the movie, like you were talking about, National Indigenous Peoples Day on Saturday, and then Sunday is Teachers Appreciation Day. A great day at the ballpark to show our appreciation to all those teachers that put up with us for that K to 12 years.
Yeah, the teachers, it's a great day to do Teacher Appreciation Day because they're all in great moods right now because they can see the finish line at the end of it. Again, for those of you that are coming with us for the patio party on Thursday, we'll be sending out an email to everyone. If you weren't there last week, though, when you come to the ballpark, we'll have a table right out front. You'll be getting your wristbands, which will get you access in there. We'll set up, got a great setup. You guys have actually done some more work on those from last year into this year, Andrew. I'm really looking forward to, I've seen the rental, but looking forward to having everyone in.
Yeah, the patios are great. We're fortunate to have great corporate partners. TransCanada Brewing has sponsored the lower left field patio. That's where you guys are going to be on Thursday. And then the upper left field patio sponsored by your friend Andre and the crew at Malibu. Yes. They're the sponsor of the upper patio. So yeah, with umbrellas and yeah, it's just looks really good.
Well, we're looking forward to packing that thing and hopefully seeing a great game for the Goldeyes on Thursday. But good luck to the squad tonight. Again, congratulations to Max Murphy, Andrew, and might need a few extra little brown jugs on Thursday. Just make sure you guys are stocked because the WST crew, I think, is going to be coming in hot. Should be a lot of fun. Can't wait to see you there.
I'll come down and visit and make sure you're well hydrated and the bars are well stocked.
Perfect, buddy. Thanks so much. Great to have you on the program as always.
Thanks, guys. See you
All
Thursday.
Right, good stuff. There's Andrew Collier, Goldeyes.com, 982 base for tickets and information on all the other games. But Thursday night, looking forward to seeing you all. And as I mentioned, yeah, myself, Reem, I'm sure Connor will be there. We'll get set up for 5:30. And just when you come in, you'll see us right there. You'll pick up the wristbands there, and we'll get you in and get on with what should be a great night. All right, tomorrow on the show, I know we talked a lot about J.J. Spawn yesterday, winning the U.S. Open. Tomorrow, Pat Gregar is going to join me, and we are going to get ready for the Travelers Tournament. Of course, all our golf reports are brought to you by Breezy Bend. Looking forward to getting out to Breezy over the next few days as well with this nice weather we're enjoying. Go to breezybend.ca for more information on the golf course, and you can give a call as well to Corey Johnson there about getting on the waiting list for future seasons. If you're considering making Breezy Bend your long-term golfing home at one of Winnipeg's top private courses in the city. We will get to our Assiniboia Downs picks coming up in a few minutes. And don't forget CFL 110 coming up in less than half an hour right after the end of today's program. Let's get to the why not question of the day today, Reem. And maybe fire up a poll for this one. Interested to hear what people think. Are we getting 7? Is this series going back to Edmonton for a 7th and deciding game, or do the Panthers ice it tonight? Let us know in the chat. Would love to hear your score predictions as well. Remo, where are you at on this tonight? I mean, it's kind of hard to go against Florida, but all along, I just felt we were destined for a 7th game, so I'm really hoping we get one, and kind of leaning on Edmonton tonight to find a way.
Better see a game 7. Yeah, I think a lot of people thought this was going to 7, and Edmonton, we need to see that McDavid, Draisaitl signature game from them. Can you believe they've been outscored this series at 5-on-5? Seems crazy, so I think we're going to see a big game from those guys. Stuart Skinner, he had his game off last game. We've seen him perform in must-win situations. I'm going with Edmonton. Let's get this thing to 7. Come on.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'll get into this with Jake, but I think this is Evander Kane time tonight. Evander is playing with Leon Draisaitl on that second line. Hasn't had a shot in the last 2 games. And when you think about when Evander has been his most dangerous in these playoffs, in fact, he had maybe the biggest goal of the entire playoffs that got them back into it, tying up that game late against the Kings in Game 3, and then doing it in a way that Jim Hiller thought it was a good idea to challenge, which ended up in a lot of ways completely deep-sixing their entire the entire series for the LA Kings. We'll look on these. I've got a couple names. I had a couple numbers coming up in our Coolbet lines, which we're going to be doing with Jake Bolin Moss in just a minute. And then we'll get to our picks for Assiniboia Downs. And then it's going to be CFL 110 time with myself and Jeff Hamilton, brought to you by Coolbet. And speaking of Coolbet, let's bring in our pal JBM, Jake Bolin Moss, for a weekly visit here on WST. JBM, what's good, buddy? How are you?
Us doing well. I headed out to Peru actually tomorrow, so this is probably my last feature for a couple weeks.
Peru?
Yeah.
Oh, Peru? Listen, if you had given me a 25 guesses as to where you were going for a little summer vacay, you probably could have given me 100. What is in Peru?
Yeah, so my girlfriend, her mom is originally from Peru. She was born in Peru. So it was her plan. She wanted to get us out there on a good trip, before we started planning some more couples trips and stuff like that. So we'll be heading out there tomorrow evening. I'm going for 2 weeks. It's funny. Peru's actually one of Coolbet's 10 different countries. We actually do have offering in Peru. So I might actually be able to see the site when I catch some Wi-Fi down there.
Well, it's funny.
Opposed to here in Ontario.
It's funny you bring that up, because when I was in Costa Rica for the for that poker event earlier this year, we had a dinner with a whole bunch of the people that were there from Coolbet, and there was a bunch of Chileans, but there were a couple of Peruvians as well. So it's all coming together. I thought this might be a business trip, but no, this is actually just a little bit of summer vacation. Hey, just while I mention this, and I think I hit this on the top, but speaking of poker, we're going to be doing the poker tourney next Monday night, 8:30 start Winnipeg time. So throw that in the daytimer, folks, or in your phone. We'll have details on, essentially, if you just go into Coolbet, into the poker, go to tournament, search WST, you'll know where it is. We'll have a bounty on myself and Reem. And I do believe we will have, in addition to, obviously everything that goes with the tournament, winning the money of everyone that's in it, qualification for one of the big Coolbet poker events to get into the final moving forward. So we'll get details on that as well. Pat was mentioning that got some big things coming up, and obviously people that love the poker and that can play at our events might have a little bit of a fast track to a couple big events where you could win some amazing trips. And speaking of amazing trips, I know I'm going to be doing a bunch of things with for Ange out for the RBC events here. We, of course, were at the RBC Canadian Open a couple weeks ago, Jake. A lot of people making sure they get in on that Cabot contest. That might be the best golf trip I've ever heard when you think about the number 1 and 3 courses in the entire country, and a couple of the best courses, frankly, in the world. And cool bettors, every time they're betting golf or whatever, getting entries in for that grand prize draw. If you don't win the RBC Scramble, that, of course, is coming up at courses around Manitoba and Canada.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with the golf trip. The Cabot one is huge. It's one of those things where, if you're a golfer, you've always dreamed of going out east and doing a big bucket list trip. It's being planned for you right now. And if you haven't signed up at Coolbet and got in on this, you're missing out. So it's not even just betting on golf either. Anything you're betting, once you're opted into this campaign, anything you're betting, sportsbook and casino, you're collecting tickets and you're getting that opportunity to head out to Cabot. in the fall for that great trip. It'll be super exciting for the winner, and I believe they get 3 friends as well. So you get a whole crew going out.
Yeah, the whole foursome.
And, we're here planning your bucket list trip, just through, enjoying some summer betting, CFL, the Bombers. We have Goldeyes odds. We have a ton of MLB. I know it's winding down with the NHL and NBA, but we always find ways to get a ton of access to a ton of the different things going on. There's also the Club World Cup going on right now, with the a bunch of clubs from around the world, all these different leagues playing right now in the United States. I think they're really trying to get ready for the big World Cup in 2026. And just back to the poker, since we were on the topic of that not long ago, I spoke with Patty. It'll be the top 2 from this month's WST event will go into the qualifier for our Coolbet Open. So the winner of that qualifier will go to the Coolbet Open in Estonia this year. Super exciting. We'll have a lot more details in a big landing page, similar to how we lay these things out for the poker month to month. But if you don't end up in the top 2 on Monday for Huss's qualifier, there will be a Western and Eastern qualifier. So just timings are a little different. That'll be on Thursday. So if you really want to get in, you'll have another opportunity to get in as well. I believe one other partner will be doing a qualifier as well. So it'll be like a jumble of all these qualifiers, top 2 from all these qualifiers going to like a final table situation. And then the winner of that will get a trip and a huge package, which like I said, there'll be details on that in a landing page shortly.
Unbelievable. So there you go. Top 2 in our tourney on Monday will be in, and we're not talking about 100 people. We're talking about a couple qualifiers from a few tourneys going in, and the winner will win a trip to the Coolbet Open in Estonia. By the way, just on that Cabot trip, if you haven't already, go to the promotions code. You'll see the icon that says win the golf trip of a lifetime. The Cool Bear's there in the middle with the Canadian flag. Just click on that and click on opt-in. All you need to do. And then every time you make a bet, it'll go towards entries for the tourney. Now that we've got the promos taken care of.
Sorry, Huss. Just after you hit opt-in, you do have to hit submit as well. I know it's a little bit. Listen, I've tried to explain to them that it should just be opt-in and you're in, but make sure you submit right after you hit opt-in there. It says Cabot25. Just submit that promo code. I've been on our people about making it not so many steps, but listen, I can't control it all, unfortunately, but yeah, you'll see the opt-in button there that Remo has up on the screen, and then there's one more button that'll say submit, and you'll be good to go. You'll see it on the right side there, yeah.
So good luck to everybody on that. Would love it to see a WST or win that, or potentially one of you poker sharks ending up representing WST and Canada at the Coolbet Poker Open. What do you think about this game tonight? We're going to get game 7 tonight, Jake. Do we like the Oilers on the money line at, what are we at here? Plus 135 right now to extend this one. I mean, listen, I don't really even need to bet this game because I bet the series to go to 7. So this is judgment day for any of those bets tonight. But it's a really disappointing game at home. But we've seen teams like the Leafs, for instance, after Game 5, they went into Florida and won in Game 6. Are you high on the chances that we get 7th heaven Friday night?
Yeah, I don't know how selfishly, because I'm leaving tomorrow, I'm kind of hoping this wraps, if I'm being totally honest, tonight. But it's not about me. I totally get that. I know you have the Game 7 tickets, so I don't want to, wish that ill will towards your bets either, but I wouldn't be shocked if Edmonton comes away with a win here in Game 6. Like you said, we saw it happen in the Leafs series where, it was a tight game and it ends up 2-0. Matthews finally gets a big goal, and they're carrying this big momentum in Florida. They have a really good knack for putting it behind them, focusing on what's the task at hand and winning the next game, right? I mean, even you look last year, they go up 3-0 and then fall down and then go all the way back down to 3-3. And you got to be thinking all the momentum's in the Oilers' favor. And sure enough, they find a way to get it done in Game 7 and win the Stanley Cup. So hard to count out Florida. I do like the value with Edmonton tonight. Like if you're going to take a side, you don't really have to do that. If anything, Huss, you could just hedge out with your Game 7 tickets. I don't know what kind of payout you're looking at, but you could probably find a way to win on both sides if you really wanted to tonight. I'm not a big fan of the hedge, but I totally would understand if you did that. I bet the over last game. The over's hitting every single game. I know that's been talked about already on the show. Maybe I just jump on the over again tonight. I know you've talked a little bit about that it might tighten up a little, but I think when it comes to these teams, man, like I don't trust Stuart Skinner all that much. And I think we need to expect a big game from the Edmonton Big Boys if they expect to head back to Edmonton for a Game 7. So might just be an overplay for me tonight. And selfishly, I am hoping it does wrap.
Well, the one thing that I'm most interested in, you'll recall, I threw out to the WSTers and my followers, Brad Marchand, top goal scorer in the Cup Final, 17-1. He's now minus 250 to be that. So not there yet, but I wouldn't mind to see Marchand do it. My favorite play of the game tonight, if you're looking for a prop, is Evander Kane to get a point. And I was checking a couple other places. This is the best number we've seen anywhere, although maybe it's come down a little bit knowing that he's going to be saddled up with. No, it's still there. Plus 185 for an Evander Kane point. Riding shotgun with Leon Draisaitl. They need him tonight. He's going to need to step up, and I think he does. Put it this way, it's more the opportunity of playing with Draisaitl, who I think is going to be at his best because he certainly wasn't in game number 5. Folks, all there for you, waiting at Coolbet. I did actually put up a 3-gamer for the baseball today. Blue Jays with Bassett on the hill, Reds over the Twins, and the Giants over the Cleveland Guardians. Plus 443 boosted to plus 510. And I don't want to spoil our CFL 110 coming up, but we'll have something up there as well as Jeff and I are going to get into the games right away. Have a wonderful trip, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, Huss. Last thing I will say, there are 6 exclusives right now over in the exclusive tab for Game 6 tonight. Some fun ones. This is one I put together. The Florida Rat Race. A Bennett goal, a Marchand point, and the Panthers to win. If you expect the Panthers to win tonight, that's been happening pretty frequent for this Florida team. Plus 550 in the exclusives.
Beauty, pal. Well, listen, we'll look forward to catching up with you when you get back. Have a great trip. We'll hook up with Patty tomorrow for some golf talk, and then get the band back together in July when you're back. Thanks for doing this, pal. And when you come back, hopefully we'll have some news on a WST or maybe going to Estonia for the Coolbet Poker Open.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot, boys.
Right on. There's Jake Bolin Moss. You can give him a follow at Jake Bolin Moss. And, of course, at Coolbet Canada for all the promos and everything else we've got cooking with our partners over at Coolbet. All right. Remo is going to pop in. I think we've got a bit of an update on Nathan Rourke. Also looking at just fan feedback right now from everybody from our question. Of course, fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market with no fees. What you see is what you pay, or what you see is what you pay. Phyllis says this series is going 7 games. I like it. Natalie, 3-2 Edmonton tonight in overtime. This is going with a 5-4 score, and Edmonton wins. And then Gregory is, Greg's giving up 2.2 goals against and a 7.92 save percentage in the first period. That needs to change. Doug McFadzean thinks it's 5-3 Florida tonight. And I think for the most part, people are picking Edmonton just because they want to see. We need it to go 7. Oh, and Schickster's fired up next week. Yeah, well, we didn't want to do it on your D&D night. We figured Monday's probably the best. And Big Uke, shout out to the Nasties. Give us Game 7, baby. I hope so. Jay Miller, Kane's a dud. I know there's not a lot of big fans of his, but he can be. He can be. Ishaboy Bruce, is CEBL on Coolbet? Absolutely it is. And the Sea Bears are hot. So the next time you go good. And they're pushing, I should mention, the Goldeyes are in action tonight. What's the line on the Goldeye game? Goldeyes, -106 at home. Slight home dog. Sioux Falls Canaries, -125. So if you're going to the game, I'm auto betting the Goldeyes on Thursday when we go to it. So that will all be there. All right, let's get Remis back here. By the way, fan feedback brought to you by fans first, by fans, for fans, no fees. Remo, just before we get to our picks for the track tonight, you mentioned that Farhan might have had a little update on Mr. Rourke. What are we hearing?
Yeah, Farhan Lalji. So he tweeted last night, the expectation is for Rourke to take part in day one practice in some fashion, probably limited. Too early to tell if he'll play. Some optimism. Well, Farhan putting out 5 minutes ago, Rourke took part in the BC Lions walkthrough with the number one offense, but went to the side when full speed work began. And then, when full speed, doesn't make sense here, but he went to the side when the full speed work began, and then he began to work with the trainers, officially limited. At that point, Masoli got the majority of the first team reps. And I think Masoli's a pretty good backup. He's had some injuries the last couple of years. But so it's day one. I mean, they play Saturday. We'll have to wait and see. The Bombers are -2.5. I see Schnitzy in chat. He says, hey, go bet the Bombers if you think Rourke isn't going to play. But interesting to know.
The Bombers anyways.
Yeah, or bet him anyway. Rourke, because he's never won against the Bombers, home or away. But so we'll be continuing to monitor that here ahead of the game. And we should give a shout out to Nick Dembski making the CFL honor roll for week 2 on offense. 4 catches on 5 targets. Was in 2 touchdowns. So pretty awesome game there for Nick Dembski with Strevler.
What about Matthew Paterson? He's not on that list?
Well, I guess there was one player, so they do honor roll, offense, defense, and offensive line, and then they do an all-week 2 team. So the Bombers had a couple players on the all-week 2 team. Chris Strevler and a quarterback, Matthew Paterson at running back, Dembski receiver, and how about Trey Vavell at returner? Nicely done for him there. So the CFL putting out their honor roll each week and their honor roll team, and a couple 4 Bombers on there.
Nicely done to the fellas. 1-0 Saturday, 6 p.m. is the Bombers and Lions. We're going to get into all CFL talk coming up right away on CFL 110. But quickly, and Jeff and I will hit all these games. Montreal is a 5-point favorite in Edmonton. The Rough Riders are a 2.5-point favorite in Toronto. Ottawa Redblacks expecting Drew Brown back, 1.5-point underdogs in Calgary. And the Winnipeg Blue Bombers open as 2.5-point road favorites in BC. From what I take from those lines, they're expecting Nathan Rourke not to play, although that could certainly change. And Drew Brown should be good to go against the Calgary Stampeders. Doesn't look like Chad Kelly's going to be playing for a week or so as well, and no drama or questions about quarterbacking in the Montreal-Edmonton game. It will be Davis Alexander and Trey Ford. And we'll also get into CFL futures and whatnot on CFL 110. Coming up in just a few minutes, we're going to go live, I guess 12 minutes from now, CFL 110 will begin. Remo, I'm pumped that we've got live racing tonight at Assiniboia Downs, and we're able to get back into the saddle, if you will, with some picks for tonight. How did things go last week for you?
I got to look it up. That is a very good question, Huss. I think it was okay. I think I was down slightly, but I had some winning days. So
yeah, but on the 11th, I'm just looking at our picks from the 11th, which was the last day of live racing. I got 680. So I lost about $13.
That's not the worst. Yeah, I think I ended up slightly up last week. Or no, there's only 2 race days last week. I was slightly down. I had a winning day on the 10th, and I lost all my picks on the 11th. But hey, it's a new day. I know you've got a big lead on me, about like $200 lead because you hit that $340 winner one day. So I'll have to try to make my own luck here and get back in it. Still a lot of race days left. It goes to October. It's crazy.
Yeah, I love it. The fact that we're getting these extra days so far this year. Excuse me. I just getting a couple final picks in here before I do my triactor on the last couple of races. Do you have yours cranked out already?
I got my picks ready, but if you wanted to go over the schedule, if you want me to mention the schedule for the Olympics, I can just touch on that real quick.
Let's do that. We can start putting it into our phones and booking it off right now.
So mark this down. Chris Johnson, I can put it out there. They announced the Olympic schedules. Yesterday, they announced the first 6 for the Olympic teams. Got to get it in for marketing purposes. Canada, McDavid, McCarr, McKinnon, Crosby, Reinhart, Point. Very exciting. Nikolai Ehlers is named to Team Denmark, currently a Winnipeg Jet. We'll see after July 1, but I'm fast forwarding to February. So Canada, here are the games in the Olympic. They play Czechia on February 12th. That is a Thursday, 9:40 a.m. February 13, that is a Friday, 1:10 p.m. Central Time. And then on February 15, that is a Sunday at 9:40 a.m. Central Time. So I don't know, I guess we'll have to make this a pregame show for that February 13 game at 2 p.m.
Yeah, we're not going to be live during the game. If we want to do some sort of fun watch along or something like that, we can do it. But I think we need to do the show.
Yeah, we'll do it early.
Who knows? By that time, me, Connor, maybe we do a post game afterwards. I don't know. We're going to have special Olympic programming at that point for sure. We're going to need to do it.
Well, one of the games is at 9:40 a.m. on a Thursday, so we'll basically be doing the post game show live.
That works.
Which works for us. So the Olympics are far away. I feel like the excitement for the Four Nations didn't really ramp up until maybe because you didn't know what it was going to be as Four Nations. People weren't taking it seriously. But I think
there were so many people with terrible takes going, I don't even know if I'm going to watch it, whatever.
And you were grabbed.
How that turned out.
That was legit best on best hockey. So I am very excited for Olympics. Maybe not so much now. You have the Cup Final going on. We have free agency. I'm sure we'll be making mock teams throughout, and I think that more ramps up too during the season. Like what they got to name the teams in December, January, and you want to see who's going to be off to a hot start. Goalies, Canada and USA didn't name any goalies. I think Canada's will be Binnington, but you also want to see how are guys playing, and I do wonder if Logan Thompson. I thought he was egregious how he was left off, but I think there's some politics involved with that. So we'll see what Canada does for goalie, and for Winnipeg Jets, all eyes on Mark Scheifele, his start to the season, and Josh Morrissey as well. I think he'll be on the team, but hey, you never know until it's named.
Yeah, I cannot wait for the Olympics. I guess I can wait. I want to enjoy summer, start to the season.
Yeah,
as well.
I want to enjoy summer.
But let's face it, just getting a taste of how great the Four Nations was last year. And this is going to be cool. I was totally fine with the Four Nations, but let's face it, at the full 12-team tournament, all of the countries, this is what we've been waiting for over a decade.
Yeah, we've been needing this Olympics here, and Team USA, they need to get a win. They've had this great team, a lot of pressure on them, and Canada wants to stay on top. Other countries are coming for them, and that group that Canada is in, you're playing Czechia, France, and Switzerland in your first 3 games. You're going to be moving on to the playoff stage. So it'll be great. And there'll probably be some upstart team. I remember 2010, no one had Slovakia making it all the way to the bronze medal game, and they had some great players back then. I'm sure there'll be some team, and we all remember the Kristers Gudlevskis game, the performance he had for Latvia against Canada. So Olympic hockey, very exciting in Italy. The time change, not terrible. 9:40 a.m. hockey. I'm sure no one will be doing work that day. And the other games in the afternoon at 2:10 Central Time. So I can get behind that. It's not like waking up at 6 a.m. and having, we were making bacon in our oven watching Canada. Who was it? Sweden in the final back in Sochi.
Oh, the Sochi game. Yeah, I was at Confusion Corner at 3 a.m. And that's an all-time day. The game sucked, though. I guarantee that the Olympics will be better than the Sochi Olympics just because of how listen, we were there to win gold. They did, but that was such a dreadful game. They just sucked the life out of the Swedes, and we didn't get a lot. Very different from what we saw at the Four Nations. All right, CFL 110's coming up in 5 minutes, which means we got to do our picks right now for Assiniboia Downs tonight. Live racing, 7:30 p.m. Remo and I have our year-long competition where we're betting $20 a race night. I do have that lead. Remo, what do you have? What do you have cooking for tonight?
Okay, I went on race 1 and 2. 1, 2, 5, and 6. Race 1, I'm just picking a winner or 6. Highlander Honey to win, 7-2 odds. I think that's pretty good for being number 1 on the AI Smart Pick. So I'll go Highlander Honey to win race 1.
It's funny you say that because I did the exact same thing. Yeah. I got a $4 win bet on Highlander Honey in race number 1.
Okay. That just seems like good odds to win, considering it's an AI Smart Pick. Race 2, I'm going with the Exacta. Race 2, I got the trifecta. 4, 5, 6. That is the same as the program selection. Same as the AI Smart Picks. 4, 5, 6. Waiting by the Nile, bound for heaven, casually classy.
Nice. I'm in race number 3, and I'm going to do my other just straight up win bet tonight. I'm putting $4 on number 3, Nickety Split, to win the race. That is the third program selection, or number 2 in the AI Sport Food. All right, wait. I have the triactors in race 6 and 7.
Okay, I have 5 and 6, and I have a triactor in 6, 5. I got an Exacta box. 8, 9, 8, 9. I got Drill, Baby Drill, and always the low one. A bit of a long shot one here, Huss.
Right on. Okay, race 6. I've got a triactor box for race 6. I'm going number 2, Forgot the Roses.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4, Whitney's Wish. And number 7, Tree Hugger.
Okay, I'm similar to you. I have Forgot the Roses, Tree Hugger. But I have Freed by Magic. So we're taking 2 favorites and a bit of a longer shot. That's a strategy here, and see what happens, Huss.
All right, and then I got a bit of a longer shot for this final one. Race number 7. I'm going number 3, Thusly Inspired. I am going number 6, Suit Me Up Charlie. And number 10, Kentucky Jake. So a 3, 6, 10 triactor box. Big race. 10 horses going to the post. So hopefully we can get a nice one. There's been some big triactors cashed as of late, Remo. I know I were mentioning with you, just kind of following up over on ASD's YouTube channel. Like I had that epic one last year that came in at like $1,100 or whatever. But there's been a few that have been $500 and $600, and we didn't see a lot of those last year. But maybe tonight will be the night. We got a piece of action on a couple of those late triactors in race 6 and 7, so we'll see how that goes. Good stuff. But as I say, we haven't spent a lot of time talking CFL today because we have an hour of CFL talk coming up right away with CFL 110 with our pal the Hammer.
Yeah, love hearing you guys chop it up for close to an hour on CFL. Looking forward to week 3. Some interesting topics, looking back on week 2, but the big games ahead. I'm looking forward to this Ottawa-Calgary game. Very intriguing. I did put Vernon Adams on the thumbnail. He's making a nice impact here with Calgary, and nice to see them having some success. And Toronto, the Grey Cup champions. It's hard to watch Nick Arbuckle struggle here in the first 2 games and be like, where was this in November in the Grey Cup? How could he have that type of performance against the Bombers and then put up these 2 eggs here in week 1 and 2. What could have been us? I don't know which Grey Cup is going to be the most scarring when we look back on this Bombers era. Losing a Nick Arbuckle. It hurts. I know Zach's finger fell off and they let him throw the ball. Just watching him
suck in these games right now, it's making it worse, frankly, Waiters in chat. Did I miss Luke Wilson chat? No, you didn't. We don't talk about jabronis. We don't waste our time with jabronis on WST. That's all I'll say on that. We got to get out because CFL 110 is next with myself and Jeff Hamilton, brought to you by Coolbet. Thanks to Cam Robinson, Andrew Collier, Dennis Bernstein for joining us today. Going to be a great show tomorrow. We still to come this week. We've got Murat tomorrow and Ken on Thursday. So we've got lots to get to. But for all you CFL fans, don't go anywhere. We'll do a self-raid. CFL 110 is now right here on WST. We'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.